Neil, I'm not familiar with these terms, MK Ultra and Manchurian Candidate. What do they mean? What's the genre?
Okay, so MK Ultra is the umbrella term. It is the CIA, the American CIA mind control program. It started in 1953 under Alan Dulles appointed a gentleman called Sidney Gottlieb to run a division called the Technical Service Division, and what they were interested in is mind control. MK Ultra is the umbrella term. It actually refers to at least 150 declassified projects that look at the entire gamut of controlling a person. And it breaks down into four categories, essentially. The first is getting secrets out of people under interrogation, the fabled truth drug. The second is the opposite, is wiping people's memories or creating barriers so that they cannot have this exposed. The third is what could be loosely termed Manchurian candidates, which I shall explain in a second, which is essentially is the total physical and mental control of a person's actions and emotions. And this can be done in a number of ways. It can be done through sort of trauma-based mind control. It can be done through hypnotic techniques combined with drugs. It can be done with psychotronic weaponry, implants, and also microwave and extremely low-frequency weaponry. And then the fourth type of mind control is essentially propaganda or perception management and societal control. And MK Ultra, as I say, is the umbrella term. It started in 1953. It was preceded by MK Chatter and Artichoke, which were also which was a Navy and an OSS operation looking into mind control. What's strange about MK Ultra is that a lot of the techniques seem to have come directly from places like Dachau, which was doing mescaline experiments to try and break the will of prisoners. Joseph Mengele was doing trauma-based. It was a thing called trauma bonding to try and basically split the mind and cause an alternate personality. And over in England as well, they were basically trying hypnotic techniques on Rudolf Hess, and they were also during the First World War. They were actually using drugs to try and experiment with truth serums and the like. Now, a Manchurian candidate is essentially the term comes from the book and the later film of the same name, and it comes from a fabled incident in Manchuria. And essentially, what a Manchurian candidate is a controlled robotic, hypnotically or drug-controlled entity that can be used against their will for either espionage as a personal computer, as a spy, or more likely as an assassin, basically. And although this sounds like science fiction, essentially, it is actually very true. There's several ways, as I say, that have been proven to actually cause this, and there's actually several whistleblowers that have come out, congressional testimony and court papers that prove that these various techniques have been used in field operations to actually create these Manchurian candidates.
I just see a lot of people getting fooled. I think of that poor underwear bomber, I mean,
Mm.
he certainly got fooled into doing something. I don't know if it was as sophisticated as what you're talking about, but it's going
Well, I
on.
mean, these techniques have been available to intelligence agencies since at least the 50s, and what it bases in, really how it's done is by creating multi-personality within a person or dissociated identity, and it works either on the basis of hypnotically causing amnesic barriers or through the use of trauma or drugs causing amnesic barriers in the brain, therefore splitting it down into sort of like a mesh or a honeycomb or a grid pattern. And what you can do is you can use these, if you have enough or few enough scruples, you can manipulate each of these amnesically distinct personalities into believing that they're actually the core personality and the only personality. And in a lot of cases, they can be completely unaware that there are many different sort of dissociated identities within the same brain. I mean, this has been done by numerous people. I mean, as early as World War II, a gentleman called George S. Brooks was using hypnosis to do a number of things. He was making hypnotic couriers, which is essentially you can call a person into your office, hypnotize them, put them into a trance, And then you can do a thing called locking, which is basically nobody but me and the other person that I'm going to send you to can get you out of this trance. You can then give them a lot of information, which you can, through hypnotic techniques, get them to remember it all verbatim. Then switch their personalities back. Then you send them over to, in this case it was actually Japan, to see a colonel. The colonel at the other end also knows the techniques, puts the guy into a trance, gets the information out of him, puts him back into a trance, and then sends him home. Now, as far as the soldier that's been to Japan and back is concerned, he delivered a letter or something like that. He has no knowledge that he imparted the information. He has no knowledge of the information himself, and he also has no knowledge that he's actually even been hypnotized. And this was available in World War II. The other technique that Estabrooks used was to split a person into two personalities and have one person as a communist and one person as a from America. And then he was able to switch them back and forth. And as a communist, he could go over there, join the Communist Party, get a load of information. He could flip him back, bring him back, put him into a trance state, and extract all the information from the communist part of them, unbeknownst to the American part of them. And again, if it's done correctly, the soldier will have no knowledge that this can be done. Morse Allen was another very, very successful hypnotist. He was able to get people to switch between personalities, to induce multi-personality, get people to plant bombs, get people to fire guns at other people, put their hands in acid, pick up poisonous snakes, impart classified information, and all these sorts of things. J.G. Watkins was able to get soldiers to attack senior officers, believing that they were the enemy, and William Buckley was actually able to get CIA agents, women that worked in the office, to take all their clothes off and willingly offer themselves up for sex. So, when we see suicide bombers, when we see people walking into schools with guns, when we see people, any of these sort of lone nutter sort of examples, the techniques do exist. Now, the thing is that a lot of people say, no, that can't be done with hypnosis. You can't actually get anybody to do anything that is against their will or their moral code. And in 90% of the time, that's absolutely true. Not in 90% of people, but in 90% of hypnotists, because it requires an incredible amount of malice and trauma to... What you need to do is you need to impose the concept on this person that you are all powerful, and then the suggestion is very, very possible. George Estabrooks actually said that he believes that anybody, given the right conditioning, could be induced to murder, suicide, or whatever. He actually said that he could induce any man, no matter how patriotic, to commit acts of treason against his will and totally without his knowledge. And so, again, not your common or garden hypnotist or hypnotherapist that you would go to, but if you've got the time and the lack of scruples and the access to drugs, trauma, and the position to elevate yourself in the mind of the subject to somebody that is all powerful, this can certainly be done. The sort of whistleblower aspects, I appreciate we've not got a lot of time, but I would suggest that people look at people like Thomas Narut, who spoke at a conference in Oslo and talked about ex-military prisoners being used and trained and desensitized in a similar way to the Clockwork Orange, the Ludovico technique, where they have their eyes held open and are made to watch progressively more violent scenes. And these were being trained to be assassins, hitmen and assassins who could and would kill on command, and they were being sent out to embassies throughout the world. This was exposed in the 90s. A gentleman called William Bishop also said that this was been done to him after the Vietnam War. And the two people that people should really look up were Claudia Mullin and Christine D. Nicola, who basically both spoke at a congressional testimony in front of Bill Clinton and exposed that they were both used in MKUltra testing when they were very, very young children. Christine Di Nicola was 4 years old and Claudia Mullin was 9. Christine was being trained to be a spy assassin and was being trained through hypnotic techniques to be able to kill other children. And Claudia Mullin was actually, at the age of 9, being taken to a place called Deep Creek in Maryland and being trained to sexually please men to be eventually used as a tool in blackmail plots, which is, again, another nefarious activity that the intelligence agencies unfortunately engage in all too often.
Well, I think I understand much better now. Will you provide some links to these people you've mentioned?
Certainly. I mean, if people want to go onto my website, there's some talks that I've done that sort of go that talk about the broader aspects of this. Obviously, if people want to buy the books, the first one goes into all the aspects of MK Ultra and the various links. And again, it's not a fact, but it's certainly possible that in cases like Christopher Dorner, certainly in school shootings like in Columbine, certainly in incidents like John Hinckley, Sirhan Sirhan, Mark Chapman, not only have very often these people have been involved in actual testing of places that psychiatric hospitals that were engaged in MK Ultra testing. But they also have a family connection to aspects of the military-industrial complex, aspects of intelligence agencies, or aspects of other institutions that have been, again, sadly used in these projects.
Thank you, Neil.